Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third of our Walsh Bay Anzac Day commemorative services. It's great to see so many people out at this early hour of the morning. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and waters around which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. And on this solemn day, we also recognise the service of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who have served this great country, both in uniform and a civilian capacity. Today, along with Australians everywhere, we gather to remember those who have served to defend this great country of Australia. We do this on the anniversary of the day when Australian and New Zealand troops landed on the beaches of Gallipoli in Turkey in 1915. Anzac Day has become one of the most important days on the Australian and New Zealand calendars. At first, it gave people a chance to remember the war dead from that first campaign, those original Anzacs. With subsequent years, wars, conflicts and peacekeeping operations, it is now an occasion to remember the service of all Australian and New Zealanders who have worn our country's uniforms in service. Today we especially recognise the more than 100,000 Australian servicemen and women who lost their lives in military campaigns over the last century and a bit. The deeds and actions of these men and women can seem quite remote to us in our modern and relatively comfortable lives. To help bring some things a little closer to home, Lieutenant Jim Warren, RNZN, retired, will share a memory of one of the Dawes and Miller Point locals, one of more than 200 who served from these two suburbs, who served with the AIF in the First World War. Jim.
On this day each year, we commemorate the anniversary of the day when Australian and New Zealand soldiers landed on Gallipoli in 1915 as part of the Allies' invasion. Anzac Day is a time for all Australians to recognise the more than 1.5 million servicemen and women who have served our country in all conflicts, wars and peacekeeping operations. It is also a time to remember the more than 102,000 Australians who sacrificed their lives in our country's name. This morning I'd like to tell you the story of one of our own, Private Walter Lorne Patterson, service number 4267. He was born in Newcastle on the 3rd of May 1889, son of Robert Bailey Patterson and Bridget Patterson. Educated at Fort Street Model School in Petersham, and at the time of his enlistment was working as a coal lumper and living at 68 Princes Street, Dawes Point, with his wife Daisy and 2 children. Princes Street was known for its large houses and harbour views, but regrettably is no longer with us, having been demolished to make way for the harbour bridge. Walter enlisted in the 3rd Infantry Battalion at Holsworthy on the 27th of September 1915, and his records show that he was 5 foot 2 inches tall and weighed 10 stone. Certainly not a big man, although he went on to do big things. After 3 months training, he shipped out on the 30th of December 1915 to France on the troop carrier Aeneas. He arrived in Marseille by way of Alexandria on the 28th of March 1916. In the meantime, on the 14th of February 1916, he had transferred to the 2nd Infantry Battalion. Apart from a couple of furloughs in the UK, Walter spent the rest of his war fighting in France and Belgium. On the 12th of May 1917, he was promoted to Lance Corporal, and on the 25th of July 1917, he was wounded in action, but fortunately not severely. On the 7th of November 1917, he won a military medal for, in the words of the Brigadier General reporting the incident, conspicuous gallantry during the operations near Zonnebeke, east of Ypres. The operations were in fact the Second Battle of Passchendaele. The Brigadier went on to report that on the morning of the 7th of November, while the battalion transport was conveying rations to battalion headquarters, it was subjected to heavy shell fire, which caused severe casualties both in men and horses, and consequent disorganisation. Lance Corporal Patterson, although wounded, collected a number of the animals, took them forward and delivered the rations, enemy shelling being heavy the whole time. Had it not been for his cool and gallant conduct, the battalion and the line would have been without rations for 24 hours. Early in the following year, Walter blotted his copybook a bit by being charged with being absent without leave from midnight to 8 a.m. on the 3rd of March 1918. On the 28th of the month, his punishment was handed down. He was reduced to the ranks and once again was Private Patterson. However, the war went on for Walter, and on the 4th of May, just one day after his 29th birthday, he was killed in action. Walter is buried in Plot 1, Row C4 at the military cemetery at Le Peuplier in France, and his headstone bears the inscription, "The Lord gave and the Lord hath taken away." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour at the War Memorial in Canberra among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is only one of many stories of service and sacrifice, and we now remember Private Walter Lorne Patterson, who gave his life for us so that we could enjoy the freedoms we do and live in a better world.
Thank you, Jim. The Ode of Remembrance has been recited to commemorate wartime service and sacrifice since 1921. It is the fourth stanza of the poem For the Fallen by Lawrence Binyon, and it was first published in 1914. On completion of reciting the ode, the last post will be paid by our bugler, Ian Stenning. This historical music was played in army camps to announce the end of the day and at a time when soldiers should be resting. The last post is played today for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. It means they have done their duty and they are now at peace. After the last post, there will be a minute's silence. This is time for us to think and reflect about those who have served our countries, those that continue to serve, those who have lost their lives, and those who continue to suffer both physically and mentally as a result of their service. On completion of the silence, Reveille will be played. Historically, this is used to wake soldiers from sleeping at the battlefield. Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Ode of Remembrance. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget. Thank you, Ian. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our service this morning as the sun tries to break through. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Remember the servicemen and women who've gave their lives to make this possible for us. Please join us for a coffee, a breakfast, and you'll notice on the screen there the numbers of and this is just the men, just the AIF, and just the First World War, the contributions from Millers Point and Dawes Point community. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but if it does, the men and women of this area have always served this country. I hope they would do the same again. Good morning.